What's going on? This is Brett Snodgrass, and this is now the Iron Deep podcast. Thank you guys for joining me today. I am super excited about what's going on, guys. Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel, checking out our podcast, leaving all the comments, all the reviews, guys. I really appreciate it. I got a text the other day just saying, man, that last podcast was amazing. Thank you so much. And I just really appreciate you guys. So thank you so much for being here today. I got a great show for you guys today, and I interview Cody Bjugan. And this guy he blew my mind, number one. He's a real estate investor. He owns a company called VestRight. He's a land developer. He's a mentor. But his strategy, hear this, guys. He makes 6 to 7 figures per deal. Now, I'm a real estate flipper, real estate wholesaler. I make 10K, 20K on a deal. He makes 6 to 7 figures. He told me after the show there's a deal that he did this year. He made multiple 7 figures. Now, if this doesn't light your fire and blow your mind, I want you guys to get educated on this particular podcast. One deal, multiple 7 figures with Cody Bjugan. And it has to do with land. He says that who controls the dirt controls the deal. And he buys and sells raw land with development potential and makes 7 figures in a deal. So this is but he's also just a man with a huge heart. He helps entrepreneurs lead a life of purpose, impact, and fulfillment. He uses those terms. He's educating people on his strategy. He's a man of God. Just a great all-around dude, Cody Bjugan. And make sure you guys check him out in a little bit. But before I introduce you guys to Cody, I want you guys to do something for me. And we're having a men's awakening. And it's in March 2023, March 13th through the 16th. Go check it out at irondeep.com. And I've had a lot of guys register. This is for business owner men that are looking for something more than success. They're looking for their identity. They're looking for more purpose and fulfillment in their life. And they're looking to leave their truest legacy. This is for you guys. So if this interests you, we're doing it in Zion National Park this time, guys. So we're undistracted in the middle of Zion National Park. And this is just a real event. This is an event that we can be ourselves. We can take the masks off. We can get around other like-minded guys and figure out what's really going on to help us live out this identity, purpose, and legacy in our lives. So if this is for you, if you're a man and you're looking for that deeper connection with the Father and that deeper connection with other like-minded guys, this is the event for you. It's filling up fast, so go check it out, irondeep.com/retreats. Check out the Men's Awakening in March 13th to the 16th, and I'll see you guys there. Also, check out our YouTube channel, too. We're coming out with videos every single week. This podcast, we do a video podcast, and we're really coming up with a game plan of what can help you guys out more. So I want to hear from you. What do you guys want? What do you want to hear? What type of content do you want? Do you want me to interview someone else that's out there? We're going to be coming up with topics and real and raw topics for businessmen. Like, what are you struggling with? What are you challenged with? And this is the show that we want to do here at Iron Deep. So I want to hear from you guys. Email me at brett@irondeep.com or text my phone number at 812-216-8602. I did just give my phone number on this podcast, so thank you guys so much. Now I want to introduce you to Mr. Cody Bjugan. What's going on? I'm with our guest on today's podcast, Cody Bjugan. What's going on, Cody? Thanks for being on the show, buddy.
Hey, good job on the last name.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I'm really excited. Number one, I think I've interviewed hundreds of real estate investors. I've been in real estate investing for the last 16 plus years, and you really caught my interest, and I think you're going to catch a lot of the interest, the listeners' interest as well, especially when you talk about doing maybe 6 figures, or 7 figures in one deal. So I've been kind of in the residential flipping game. If I say I make $5,000 or $10,000 or even $20,000, $30,000, that's like, wow, because I come from a teaching background. That's great, but you go way and above and beyond. I really want to talk about your strategy of land, who controls the dirt, controls the deal. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but let's talk about you, man. Like, who is Cody Bjugan?
Okay, so I love that you asked me that question. You know why? Because about August actually is when I decided to do it. I'm in these different mastermind groups, and we have our pods, right? Our forums, and man, we go deep, because it's a confidential environment, and we're able to get really vulnerable with each other. But I decided to take it a step further, and I identified 5 people in my life that I wanted to do scheduled, recurring one-on-ones with. Okay. And one of those is a gentleman, man, I admire him. He's actually a pastor in Colorado Springs. And he asked me that exact question about a month ago.
Wow.
And I think people have asked me similar questions to that on all the different podcasts or just in life. And, I answered whatever way. But when he asked it, he somehow asked it in a way that I didn't instantly respond. I actually stopped and I thought about it for probably 10 seconds. And here's what came out. It's on my wall right here. And it's been on my wall ever since I said it about a month ago. And it's fairly profound in my eyes and totally identifies who I am and what I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm going to read this to you. Okay. And then we can wrap however you want off of this. Okay. So it says, who are you? I'm a broken little boy that's being very intentional and purposeful about pivoting the legacy of my family so that same little boy doesn't show up in future generations. So brother, that's who I am. I'm that hurt little boy that's focused on the pivot.
Wow. Well, that's definitely, starting off going deep. You're right. That question stumbles a lot of people, honestly. And sometimes people stumble over the words and I don't know. I do real estate, developer, and then they just kind of stumble through it. But thank you for sharing that. It's one thing that, just launched this ministry, Iron Deep, and we dig deep into identity, right? And we all kind of, dig deep into who are you? What is your identity statement? Like when it's all said and done, when everything's stripped away, what can you really hang on to? And
yes, sir.
So thank you for sharing that.
For sure.
That took some thought.
And then, I was talking to a good buddy of mine actually yesterday, one of the guys that I do one-on-ones with, and we were talking about that statement. And, I've done tons of digging, man, in my life, trying to unbury stuff, stuff that I've just stuffed way down deep over, different wounds or, hurts or life experiences that they're really hard to find. And so I've been through a lot of personal development, personal growth, therapy, all the stuff, man. And it's okay to be vulnerable enough to say you're a hurt little boy. The question is, are you focused on turning those open wounds into a place of healing? And the scars are still going to be there. That's why I still call myself a hurt little boy, because no matter how much healing I've done or how much work I've done, that hurt little boy never fully goes away. And I think it's okay to own that. The question is, what are you doing to change it for future generations, which is a part of my statement. And so anyways, I got to tell you, I'm humbled, and I'll just be frank, I'm proud of myself that I'm comfortable enough sharing something like that vulnerable on a podcast like this.
Right. Yeah, because typically you're the guy that I'm interviewing, and you're the guy that's supposed to have all the answers and have it all together, right? I mean, that's your position in this podcast.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? Maybe being vulnerable like that and being humble enough to be vulnerable like that, maybe there's some magic sauce in that, and potentially on my way to having some things figured out.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it sure takes a lot of pressure off of me.
Yes, it does.
It sure allows me to have a lot more freedom in my life and a lot more peace in my life when I'm just allowing myself to be authentic no matter what environment I'm in.
I love
So
it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Cody, you've removed the mask, and I appreciate that. And I know our audience appreciates that too. And we're going to talk about, you kind of have some words. I think just before the podcast, you said some words like, living out your one legacy. You have PIF, which is basically purpose, fulfillment, and impact. Yeah. So we can talk about that. But obviously, the things that a lot of people want to talk to you about is, again, how do you make seven figures in one deal? You've been an extremely successful businessman. You've taken real estate investing to just that other level. People probably they want to pick your brain. They want to talk to you. They want to learn from you. So can you tell us about that journey a little bit and just kind of your strategy? Because has that helped bring you freedom, right? And take us into that. So let's talk about your real estate.
Great question. A lot there. I will say, I'm not going to sit here and say that certain financial freedoms doesn't allow you the opportunity to make success in other pillars of your life a bit easier. Mm-hmm. Right? Let's just break that down a little bit. Like, so with one legacy, let's just talk about one legacy real quick, and then we'll get into my business model, because you asked, is that allowed, is my business and the money we make and all that allowed me to have these other focuses, right? Of PIF, purpose, impact, fulfillment, one legacy. Of course it does. 100. Because money's not the goal, but it sure is a wonderful tool, right? And to be clear, you'll never arrive. It's not all of a sudden you're going to hit a certain net worth or a certain dollar amount and you're going to all of a sudden arrive. It just, money's not like that. Money's a tool. Money is just an element to me, or a tool that allows you to go really do great things in the areas of life that really matter. So let's just talk about my model really quick. So how I got into what I am into now, I started my business back in 2002, along with a partner back then. We were partners for a couple of years. I got my high school girlfriend pregnant. Let's just start there. And so I got a degree in the hard knocks of street smarts through having a reality check, right? Like, I planned to head off to ASU, where my daughter actually goes now, and do the whole thing. And I just had a reality check. I had, when I was a senior year in high school, girlfriend was pregnant, and I got into the flooring union. And the reason I got into the flooring union is because my soon-to-be father-in-law was in the flooring. He owned his own flooring business. And he said, hey, if you go into the union, you can get full health benefits within 3 months. And so I literally needed to figure out a way to pay for my son that was on his way. So I went into the flooring union, qualified for health insurance, paid for my son being born. And by the way, I got married just a couple months out of high school. Wow. Had my son, and shortly after that left the flooring union. And anyways, went into the private side of the flooring industry, accomplished great things, young, driven individual, very lopsided, sacrificed every other pillar of my life for career and money. But I got to a point in that industry where I had a choice to make. I either needed to go open my own store because I had kind of capped out in the industry without actually being an owner, or I needed to go do something different. And I kind of, for the wrong reasons, but I kind of admired a lot of my clients that were developers, home builders, all that, because we were servicing all their projects. And I admired their shiny things, right? Which I now know is extremely empty. But along with a partner, made the leap of faith. And to everybody's, when you're 24 years old and you go start your own business, because the biggest thing that holds people back is fear. There's just no question. And when you're 24, you probably don't have the same fear factors that you do when you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So that made it a little easier, I think, for me to make that leap. Mm-hmm. But once we did, I kind of never looked back. Don't get me wrong, the Great Recession was painful and this, that, and the other. But the model I'll get into the model that I do today and how you can make the 6-7 figures, okay? But before I do, let me lay the foundation that when I went self-employed, I not only did this unique model that I teach and that my company mainly does today, but I did the horizontal construction, right? So I put in all the utilities, all the street lights. I put in all the infrastructure. I would build the homes. I built tons of homes, right? So I've done a lot of the construction. But I've gotten to a point where you start figuring out what is your unique experiences, knowledge or understanding, because that is where, to me, there's the most opportunity or leverage. And I don't teach horizontal construction, so like land development. I don't teach home building, vertical construction. The reason I don't teach those things is because I don't feel like I have really anything unique or specialized to bring to those areas of the space. Mm-hmm. Is that stuff, there's plenty of education out there related to construction. It's very technical, and I'm not going to wow you there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Plenty other opportunities and materials out there to go learn. What I have carved out to be the opportunity that we make these types of paydays you're talking about with limited capital, or for others, limited capital, I should say, with limited capital and limited risk. Because that is so key, because most people don't even try to get into my space of land development because they think it's untouchable, right? They think it's way too much risk, way too much cash. You had to have a business handed to you, or you had to have a bunch of money handed to you. It's only for the wealthy. And that's why I decided to start VestRight, my education company, because Allied Development is my company that does all this. VestRight is my company that teaches it. And I started that in 2019 because I wanted to take my specialized knowledge and experience and make a difference, right? To make an impact, to throw down the rope. And that's where PIF comes from, purpose, impact, fulfillment, is I started VestRight to fulfill a purpose that I felt I had a calling for, to make an impact on other people's lives. And ultimately, that brings me fulfillment. And I'll tell you right now, any of you that are just trying to be happy, I don't even like the word happy. The word happy is temporary. And let me let you in on a little secret. None of you are searching to be happy. Okay? What you're searching for is fulfillment. Whether you know it or not, you are searching for fulfillment, because fulfillment can be lasting. Happiness is temporary. You can be going through a trial or tribulation and going through a really tough time and still have fulfillment. Yeah. And so that's why I started VestRight. And so here it is, and it took me a long time to get here, but here's the core of our business of what we do and teach. We teach how to go prospect off-market raw land that has development potential. And let me break that down. Why off-market? Don't misunderstand me. We do on-market deals too, but our focus is off-market. Why off-market? Well, because I want to be in control of my own deal flow, right? Without deal flow, nothing else matters. I don't want to sit around and wait for a real estate agent to call me or for something to go on the open market for sale. Why? Because I don't control that. 2, because it creates a very competitive market that you've got to compete in, and quite frankly, oftentimes have to compete in environments where guys are doing things that don't make sense because they're either overly motivated, desperate, or they're completely uneducated. And I'll say a lot of times it's the second one. Yeah. Right? Is that Warren Buffett has a quote out there around the idea of, and I can find it, but it's risk comes through basically being uneducated, right? I forget what the exact quote. Actually, I have it right here in my phone. Let me read it to you. It says risk comes from not knowing what you are doing. Okay. A lot of people come into my space and take unnecessary risk because they don't know what they're doing. And why don't they know what they're doing? Because no one's teaching it. There's those out there that are teaching how to wholesale land, like rural land, like you all do, houses, and flip the man and make a couple bucks, right? Actually, one of the guys lives down the street from me. And we're talking about him, promoting my stuff to his people as a way to kind of level up and go to the next level.
Yeah.
Right. That we know of, no one is teaching how to prospect off-market raw land that has development potential. Development potential is where you make your money. Okay. For those of you that have been around real estate a while, there's what's called value add, right? So guys get into the value add with multifamily or storage or mobile home parks or really any asset class, any building they get into that operates on cap rates or NOI, that they figure out how to add value to that asset, right? By decreasing costs, increasing revenue, so on and so forth. Well, we're in the value add. We're not in the wholesale business. We're in the value add business of taking a raw piece of land and turning it into an approved development. Through that process, we bring substantial value to that deal. And our clients are ecstatic to buy our deals at approval, meaning approved for development, to where they don't have to deal with that process of getting it there. And that's where those 6 or 7 figure paydays come from. It's because we bring value to the deal. Is that, and quite frankly, it's also because it's a blue ocean area of real estate. Because nothing against house wholesalers. I got plenty of friends that are house wholesalers and apartment syndicators. I got plenty of friends that are apartment syndicators. But guess what? There's one on every street corner. And not only that, but they're 5 deep. They're in line. Like, why compete in a red ocean environment? Why not compete in a blue ocean environment? And so, but it's blue ocean because not everybody and their mother's out there teaching it, right? Everybody and their mom's teaching house wholesaling, is teaching apartment syndicating or storage facilities or mobile home. Like, name another guy that is teaching what I'm teaching that I know of. Nobody. So I know that was very, very long-winded, but hopefully it was informative.
Yeah. No, it's very, very informative, very, very intriguing, because you're exactly right. I belong to some mastermind groups, and another guy was talking about this, and I haven't heard much about this kind of concept, but he was talking, these 7-figure paydays, and it just really got me thinking about it, number one, and it kind of just, like you said, it takes a level up. So I remember when I got out of college, my parents were both school teachers, and I was a school teacher for about a year. And I made, $30,000 a year, $35,000 a year, whatever a teacher makes getting out. And I started getting into real estate investing just a couple of years later. And I started hearing guys say, "Well, what if you made $35,000 a month?" And I was like, there's just no absolute way, that's crazy. And then we started doing that. And then I was like, well, yeah. And it just started leveling up. And here's another level up. And when I started reading just about you, I think you talked about get out of the hamster wheel of real estate investing. And sometimes I feel like I can be in that hamster wheel. So we own a wholesaling type of business. We do a couple hundred houses a year. And yeah, it's a lot of work at the end of the day. So I guess my question to you is, a lot of real estate investors are listening to this right now. They're probably really, really intrigued. Can anyone really step into this space, and kind of what does that look like? So, I'm used to flipping a bunch of houses, right? Stepping into this space is really intriguing, but can anyone kind of step into this with your education, and what does that kind of learning curve look like for them, I guess?
Yeah, great question. Let me start off by saying you have a huge leg up. Here's what I mean by that. Is that I've spoken, rooms that are full of wholesalers, right? I've done, whether physically or virtually. And we've educated several house wholesalers. And the reason y'all have a leg up, because house wholesalers are, no questions asked, the best off-market prospectors there are. Like, no questions asked. All you got to do is shift your criteria of what you're looking for, and you now become a deal flow machine. You all know off-market prospecting. That's huge, because without the deal flow, nothing else matters. Now, as far as the education side and learning this, let's first break a couple things down before I get into how long it takes and the different options of how to get into it. Is, if there's one thing that your listeners or your followers could get from this call or this interview, would be this, is that if you're going to come into this space and do off-market raw land that has development potential and get it approved for development, you need to understand that you never close on these deals if you're going to pay development value for land. Okay. And that could be, I go and I talk to Joe Blow Farmer, and his land as is, sitting there just as is, it's maybe worth $5,000 an acre, let's just say.
Right. That's very typical.
But me as a developer, but what was that?
And that's very typical. I mean, we all have towns and farmland, and
And there's certain areas that in the country where that farmland might be worth $20,000 an acre.
Right.
But my point is, let's just say $5,000. As is, it's worth $5,000 an acre. But me as a developer, I'm willing to pay him or her, let's just say $50,000 an acre. So 10x more.
Yeah.
But the key is that if I'm going to pay that 10x more, I don't actually close on the purchase until after I get the development approved. And depending on where that is in the country, let's just say that's a 9 to 18 month process. And people say, well, how do you get Billy Bob to wait 9 to 18 months? Like, everybody's used to real estate deals closing in 30 days, 60 days. In the craziness of the last couple of years, much quicker. And, well, I don't know, put yourself in Billy Bob's shoes. Billy Bob, would you like, and let's just say he owns 10 acres, right? So Billy, would you like me to pay you $50,000 now? Or would you like me to pay you $500,000 a year from now? I can tell you, I've never had one property owner say, "Oh, I'll take the $50,000 now."
Yeah.
But if they said that, I'd do it, no problem. Okay, is that don't come play in this space and close these deals like a normal real estate transaction, because in the stupidity that was happening from mid 20 to mid 22. There was guys coming in and paying development values, okay, and closing right away. Guess who's licking their wounds right now?
Yeah.
They are.
I think they say land eats 3 meals a day when the market's going down.
As soon as you take title, you lose all your options.
Yeah.
Okay? So like right now, everybody in our country knows that the market has changed. So property owners aren't surprised that you might have to come and revisit the price. Okay?
For sure.
But because I haven't taken title, I can revisit the price. I can push the closing out to the other side of this recession. Worst case scenario, I can walk if I need to. But I don't have any of those options if I close it, right? If I take title.
Right.
And so if there's one thing y'all could learn from me, don't play in this space and close it like a normal real estate transaction, because that is going to get you in trouble. Now, you might luck out here and there and you think you're brilliant, but I promise you that's not brilliance.
Yeah. How many?
And so,
go ahead. One question is, how many deals kind of fall out? What's a fallout percentage? So you tie these up 9, 18 months. How many deals don't get approved? Because, I've heard that a lot. Towns, they're like, no, we don't want a development here. We're not going to approve this.
Well, one is you should know the jurisdiction and their appetite before you get involved.
Okay.
Knock on wood, thank the Lord. Our track record on projects that we attempted to go get approval on we've never not got a project approved over 20 years.
Wow. Really? Wow.
Never.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't have
But
a
you
lot
also
of
got to
familiar.
understand, so many people, the mistake they make with politicians and with jurisdictions, with governmental bodies, is they see them as the enemy. They see them as it's us against them. And first thing you need to do is shift that mindset. It's not us against them. You need to look at the jurisdiction as your partner. Okay. Ultimately, they want growth in their jurisdiction. Right. But they want it on their terms.
Yes.
Well, so what I talk about or advise people is just like we teach to go figure out what a property owner's hot buttons are, what's important to them, and then structure the deal around their hot buttons to where it's a win-win. A great negotiation book is Never Split the Difference. But one thing I do not like in that book is that he basically says win-wins aren't possible. And that's absolutely not the truth. Is that you figure out the hot buttons and then you structure a deal around that to where it can work, where it is a win for both parties. But it's no different than the jurisdiction. You've got to figure out what's important to them. You got to figure out what they want the public to see. You got to remember, they're elected officials. You got to figure out what story they want to tell. You take care of those hot buttons. You might even be willing to fall on a sword for them publicly to make them look good. But you're winning in other areas of the overall structure of the project to where it's a win-win. You've got to shift your mindset of how you view these governmental bodies, because otherwise it's an uphill battle. Like we recently, this year we got a project approved that jurisdiction hadn't approved a project in over a decade. Right? But it was because we went into it with this mindset. Make sense?
Yeah, definitely. No, I love that. I think you're exactly right. It's all about just the mindset shift. And for me, it's like, so I've been used to the quick nickels, right? You get in, get out, 2 weeks, 30 days in and out. And that's what I've been used to. But when you put it like this, is it easier to market and to slow down and to do one deal instead of, and make 7 figures, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and you asked
houses,
that. You
right?
Yeah, I mean, here's the reality. So our fallout, we've gotten everything approved. But Allied is based in Dallas, Texas, where our headquarters is and our whole team, and I'm in Scottsdale. I'm just on the board at this point. And that company's scaling all over the country. And so when you're scaling at that level, to be frank, you are going to have more deals not get past the due diligence process, because it's just how it works, right? It's just economies of scale, and it's a part of the economies of scale. But we utilize technology beyond belief. So I mean, up until a few years ago, it was just me and a couple people for like 18 years.
Wow.
But I could be anywhere in the world really and still be running my business through utilizing technology. And so, and you don't, and the reason we're able to do deals all over the country without having offices all over the country is because you aren't the boots on the ground. The fun thing about our model is your engineers, your consultants do 90% of the lifting. You're just more of an overseer. And so when we go do a deal in some new jurisdiction in the country, first thing we're doing is we're figuring out who the best engineers are in that area that have a good relationship with the jurisdiction.
Gotcha.
Because they're our boots on the ground. They're our representatives. And so yeah, it's really fun that way. And I understand we call it the hamster wheel, right? Like house wholesalers, and nothing against y'all, man. I bless you all. I want nothing but the best. But what I enjoy about my model, as far as my legacy, is that I don't have to find a desperate, motivated seller to make money. I don't have to buy below market to make money. I make money by bringing value to the deal.
Yeah.
Right?
That's awesome.
So I can actually, my one legacy, you have one legacy, I have one legacy, those property owners have one legacy. We all have one legacy. And every decision we make every single day, action we take or don't take, every movement you make every single day is a part of your one legacy. And the moves and how you handle me impacts my legacy and vice versa. So here's what I know is that I want a part of my legacy to be that I care about my sellers and that I care about their legacy and that I understand that them selling me their property might be one of the biggest transactions, if not the biggest transaction of their legacy. And the last thing I want to do is try to figure out a way to rip it from them for less than it's worth. Because we don't make our money by ripping below market. We make our money by increasing the value of the asset.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome, man. And you started to get to me think about just the legacy in general. And let's just wrap the show up with that. So you've been doing this for 20 plus years, it sounds like, and you've obviously had this journey within the last few years scaling the business, but you have PIF now, purpose, impact, fulfillment. You are educating people in this. So can you talk about just kind of like your journey, what's been going through just your life and just starting to reflect? You talked about the 5 people that you want to repetitively meet one-on-one. So talk to our audience just about this season of life that you're in.
It's the most disciplined, intentional, fulfilling phase of my life that I've ever been in. But it started, first 40 years of my career, or first 39, 40 years of my life. And part of the reason why I didn't generate substantial wealth through the Great Recession, because that was a huge wealth generation opportunity, is because I didn't put value in things like podcasts, like courses, like masterminds, like books, like mentor. I didn't value any of that. And I started really my personal development, personal growth journey. I kind of started dipping my toe into it about 6 years ago, but I went all in about 4 years ago. And the way that I've been able to truly get into the place I am today is through 2 main points, I would say. One is faith. And yes, I'm a spiritual, I love Jesus. I will tell you, I wouldn't call myself religious. I don't believe in checking the exterior boxes. I just have an amazing relationship with Jesus. And the reason I do, by the way, is because I don't take the relationship for granted. And I'm very disciplined and intentional with that relationship. You want to have a good marriage? You better be disciplined and intentional in that relationship. Well, it's no different than Jesus. So I will tell you, my faith is the number one reason. And what really started causing a pivot in my faith, my faith, was in 2016. I heard a sermon that I'd never heard before, and I've been in the church since 8 years old. And it was, just because you believe doesn't mean you have faith. And that's me taking what he spoke and kind of putting it in my own words. But just because you believe doesn't mean you have faith. And up until then, I kind of always looked at believing and faith as the same thing. And the reality is they're far, far different. And I spun off of that, and I came up with another slogan of mine, which is believe, action, faith. And I think, and it doesn't have to be spiritual. It could be your business or here's the reality. You're in a position where you have the freedom of choice, and you can tell yourself whatever story you want to tell yourself. Okay. And you can make it come true, whatever you want that story to be. But so first you got to believe in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. Second, you got to take the action to try to accomplish it. But after that, you're done. And the last part is faith. Is that those that are trying to control everything and won't leave leave a lot of it up to faith, because guess what? Life is challenging for you. Without faith and realizing you're not in control of everything, you have no shot in hell of any type of lasting peace in your life. Without faith, peace is not possible. And I oftentimes, whenever I fall out of peace, within seconds, I can quickly go over and say, guess what? I'm not exercising my faith muscle. I'm trying to control everything.
Yeah.
And so that'd be number one, is my faith. Number two, I would say is, and I'm guilty of this until the last few years, is I wasn't trying to serve first, receive second. The more that I've tried to serve and make a difference and do it genuinely, authentically, without expecting anything back.
Amen.
People talk all the time about, oh, it's crazy how when you give, throw it on the rope, that how it comes back tenfold.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, but you don't want to go into it with that mindset, because then I don't think it's blessed the same way. You got to do it because you genuinely want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I'm telling you, man, it works. You're a magnet. People want to be a part of that.
And it might not work all the time. And a lot of people just relate that to money. Like, if I give, then it's going to come back.
Most of the time, it's not money.
Yeah. A lot of times it is, like you said, it could be just your purpose and your fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
That's priceless. So,
yeah.
And
then I think biggest of all, as part of my business now being where it's at, is because I went through a process in 2020 of having to humble myself and acknowledge the biggest problem with my companies was me. That I was the one getting in the way. That just because most entrepreneurs, I have this thing called E&E, entrepreneur, not executive. I'll tell you this, most entrepreneurs are not phenomenal executives. And so I made this choice that I needed to get out of the way and allow my business to go accomplish all that it had the opportunity to accomplish.
Yeah.
And the business has scaled since then. So I call that scaling through humility. And I feel like the more humble I'm pushing myself and trying to grow to become more and more humble, man, there's no question that there is wisdom found through humility.
Amen.
I have a verse, Proverbs 11:2 on my computer right here. And it says, pride leads to disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Is that daily I'm working on my humility.
Yeah, I did a video on just humility, and that was the greatest. When they started to study companies, I think it was Good to Great, and they started to study companies, and a lot of it was because of the owner had humility, and I think it takes, especially when the entrepreneur like yourself has to get out of that seat and is not the face and is not the the power and is not the leader, and no one's going to him with all the questions. It takes a lot of humility to get out of that seat. I'm sure it did for you.
Sure does. It sure does.
That's awesome.
But man, humility is just a beautiful gift if you allow yourself to receive it. But yeah, so I mean, I know we talked a lot about, so I think I said this to you before the show. My business model is the carrot, how we attract people, right? Because they want a part of my blue ocean business model. And because the other thing we didn't talk about is that most of the risk and most of the capital required to play in the land development space is non-existent with that model I taught. Because the real risk, the real capital starts when you close on the dirt. And the thing is that the beautiful thing about the model is you do double closing, simultaneous closing. So you use your buyer's money to pay your seller, and you make your scrape out of the middle. Yeah. And so you hold title for a split second. So
we're very familiar with that model.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. So if you actually decide to put a shovel in the ground, that's where you take on the substantial debt, the substantial capital requirements, and the substantial risk. Yeah. So the model avoids all that, and that's why the barrier of entry is lowered so much for the students we teach. And also, we had a lot of students, and just one more thing, and I'll let everybody go. So we teach you A to Z how to do what we do, but more and more students, and everybody said, Cody, your business model is brilliant, and let me humble you right now. This wasn't the original intention. It's just people kept asking for it. And so what happens is a lot of students want to partner with my company, Allied Development. Yeah. And that wasn't why I started VestRight. It wasn't to be self-serving. It was just to teach people what I do. But then more and more students kept asking, can we partner with you? Can we partner with you? So now, after hearing that enough times, we allow students to partner with us, where they go find a ready, willing seller, tee it up. We'll come in, negotiate the purchase. We will run all the approvals, get it all approved for development. We will sell it. We will capitalize the whole thing. And then we'll cut the student, our partner, in on the profit. And so, people are like, Cody, that's so brilliant. That was so smart to start that education company. It wasn't. It just happened.
Yeah. And but especially like with your model, it's good for a student to start getting their feet wet, just to learn, educated the process, right? So I would
maybe do your first couple deals with us and then go do them on your own. I mean, whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Cody, thank you so much. What's one last thing you'd like to just say to our audience? Doesn't have to be about the land, business, but what do you want to say to them?
Well, one is I want to provide your audience a free playbook where they can go learn a whole lot more about my model. And I can't guarantee things, but if I could, I would guarantee you that you will come out the other side of that playbook much more knowledgeable. And even if you never go do what it is that I do, if you have the knowledge, it's going to bring power to you when you walk into the room. Because here's the reality. I'm in a room full of real estate experts or investors. A lot of times I have a leg up on most of them because I understand this side of the industry. And you say, well, no, I'm in the house wholesaling business, or I'm in the apartment syndication business. It really won't serve me. That's not true, because I'll go after that same deal and I see opportunity that you don't.
Yeah.
I know that I can add a couple more doors, or I know I can split off a lot, or I know I can do this or that or the other thing. You don't know that.
For sure.
So I have an advantage. And so even if you never go do what I do, I would just suggest you understand the model and get educated, because dirt is the name of the game, in my opinion, when it comes to real estate, because none of these other things exist in real estate without first starting with the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it, Cody. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can they get the free book?
Yeah. So go to VestRight.com, VestRight, VestRight.com/Brett. Your name, BRETT. We created a link just for y'all to go get that playbook for free. So just go check it out, get through it. You're going to learn something.
Awesome. Sounds good. That's VestRight.com/Brett, BRETT. We'll put that in our show notes on our YouTube channel, guys. And that's a wrap with Cody Bjugan. Thank you so much, Cody.